afternoon, and welcome to this week's episode of ThinkTank Thursday. I'm Candy Kelly and excited to be your host for this week. Thank you for spending the time with us. You know, before we jump in, I got to give a shout out to everybody that makes this possible for me to bring this to you every single week. So you'll see on the side there, I've got some great sponsors with Party Center Software, Betson, Embed, Simnox, and Redemption Plus. They are the reason that I get to bring Think Tank Thursdays and introduce you to people from all over the industry every single week. And so let's jump in. Thursdays, we take a little bit of time away from the doing. And guys, I know this is a super busy season for all of you. There's so much to be doing, but we've got to spend some time thinking about our business, especially at this turn of the year. We're about to go into a new year. And so I have brought out a great guest for today who is going to talk about an important topic that you should make sure is on your calendars at some point throughout the next year. So why don't you take a second, tell everyone who you are and what you do for the industry.
Hey, Candy, thank you so much for the opportunity today. My name is Ed Hodgdon. I'm the Executive Secretary of NEAAPA, the Northeast Entertainment Association. We are the regional trade association for the attractions industry that covers the 6 New England states and New York State and City. And I've been in this role now for almost 12 years and just seen the industry grow and also change a lot in that time as we've as things have obviously changed in the industry. So
awesome. Well, NEAAPA and Ed released a fantastic resource in one of their most recent newsletters for their members. So if you're not a member, you should sign up so you can get these newsletters. But one thing in particular caught my attention, especially as we're going into planning for the new year. What types of things will we want to be on our calendar? What priorities do we have? And so I brought him on to talk about this guide to hosting elected representatives that was put out just last week in last week's newsletter, I believe.
Yeah, we've had it out for a while, but yeah, we really pushed it last week after the midterm elections, and there were different, there were changes in, state legislators, maybe governors, other representatives, and so yeah, we did another push on it.
Awesome. So first I want to start with the foundational. Why does NEAAPA believe that it is essential, and I do believe you guys use the word essential in the write-up, to create relationships with these elected officials?
We find that it's very essential to have these because it is when you are electing somebody to represent you in a body of government, whether it's local, state, or federal, you always, as a business owner, want to maintain a relationship with them. Just so that if something is coming up for discussion that might have an effect on your business or on the industry as a whole, you have a resource to say, hey, you and I know each other. You understand how my business works. And this is why this piece of legislation, again, whether it's state, local, or federal, will have an impact, either positive or negative. And to be able to foster those relationships over the long term is absolutely essential. I go back to, the dark times of, recent years when we were struggling through COVID. We were seeing at the very outset, there were, we all were probably eligible for PPP loans, but then there became very industry specific recovery programs that were put in place, whether it was the restaurant program, shuttered venues program. And if we think about our industry, most of us have food and beverage. I would be surprised if we don't. And we're also a venue of some type. And depending on the state you were in, you were either able to open relatively easily with some restrictions, or you were shut down for, at times, almost up to a year. And we were not part of that. Part of my thinking, and I think NEAAPA and some of the rest of the industry's thinking, is we weren't doing a good job telling our story before this. There wasn't a lot going on, so we were like, hey, nobody needs to buy. If we're not bringing any attention to ourselves, then no one's going to bother us. Great. But in the long run, I think that sort of hamstrung us when it came time to when legislators, elected representatives, were making these decisions. They were, they're very familiar with how restaurants work. So, the National Restaurant Association has done a huge lobbying push before, during, and after COVID, just so that the legislators knew what the industry was doing. Same thing with lodging, same thing with other industries. So when it came time for COVID, those people that they thought of, those industries that have been more vocal, seem to get to the front of the line on this. Us being, in the attractions industry, maybe not as vocal, got shut out, in my opinion. So we're definitely trying to work to change that, not just with NEAAPA, but also with our, sibling associations, whether they're state like NJAA or PAPA or even CAPA, but also with IAPA and other associations like that, to say we've got to do more to just keep our, not necessarily keep our name out there, but keep our story out there.
Mhm.
We don't tend to let people behind the curtain, maybe to see how the magic goes into operating our venues. But in retrospect, that might be important for people who are making bigger decisions on behalf of us to understand how they're going to affect us.
Yeah, sounds like the lesson learned is that we need those relationships before we need to ask for something from those relationships. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very important to have that. And people change, new people are elected. So it's always something to keep in mind as that, with every election cycle, to know who is representing you and having that, even if it's just a, hey, I'm Ed and I run an FEC here in, Maine, letting those people who are representing me in Augusta or in Washington know who I am.
awesome. This one may not be as straightforward. Do you believe that more of an emphasis should be put on local, state, federal officials? Like, I tend towards pushing people to get to know your local people first and be really involved in your immediate community, because it will open doors to your state, which will maybe open doors to your federal. But you have more experience, so what do you suggest?
I suggest for me, and what I would tell a member is to, definitely look at where you think you're going to have the most impact. Of course, that's going to be more local than state than federal, but always try and keeping those, that relationship or those lines of communication open. Knowing who the staffers are, maybe in Washington, or in your federal representatives' local offices, but also the state representatives and other people. So it does vary, but yeah, you do want to sort of start local. That's where you're going to have the most impact, and then slowly working your way, up to your state house or to DC.
I also heard from what you just said there, step one is to just know who your representatives are. And there are websites out there that makes it really easy, that you put in your address where you live and it'll say, here's who is all of your local people, here are your state people, and here are your federal people. So everyone, if you do not know, go find your representatives today, know their names.
Absolutely. It's very important, so that you're, when you make that initial call for something, you kind of have an understanding of who they are, because sometimes we're just, when we're voting, you're in your little, you're behind the curtain, and sometimes you're just checking off names because you're like, oh, there's so much to do. And maybe you don't know. It's important to know who's representing you.
Oh, got that. All right. The thing that you guys at NEAAPA put out, this guide, is about specifically site visits. And so what is a site visit exactly? Like, what do you think?
Sure. So a site visit that we look at is, I'll give you an example, is like if I were to operate an FEC, or an attraction of some type, I would reach out to either my local, state, or even federal representatives and say, hey, I would like to invite you to come to my business and see how it operates. If you think about where, and I go back to COVID, and, people understanding our business is, because we want to keep that barrier of, what we do just happens, and it's great and it's awesome, and it provides that little piece of magic, maybe for the kids or for the families or whoever's visiting. We don't want people necessarily to see behind the curtain. And it's important for these people to see that and understand that, they could go to, a restaurant or retail store or a hotel, because they're everywhere, and you kind of understand how the business works. we tend to be a little bit more, there's the on stage and the backstage, and not seeing the backstage stuff for us in our industry can be important, but it's also important for them to understand how our business is. I started out in this industry working for a seasonal operator. We were open 100 days a year. The name of the park was Funtown Splashdown USA. So we're open 100 days a year, but there was a staff of 25, give or take, that worked year round. I was there for 20 years, and it was always it always surprised me when people were surprised that I had things to do during the off season. It's very much that you just flip a switch and everything comes on. And we see that because, if you think about if you have a fair that comes through your region, the mobile operator comes in, they set up some rides, the rides are there, they tear them down, and then they go to the next stop. So it all happens very quickly. So the anecdotal information is like, well, it can't be that hard. These rides don't move. You just have to, flip a switch and they go. But there's so much that goes into doing that. And I think it's very important for, these people who were electing to represent us to understand that it is more than just what you see as a guest on the midway, or what you see as a guest when you walk into a facility, that this is all that there is. And it just, we flip a few breakers or a few switches and everything's there.
If you come in and only look at it from what the guest sees, you could possibly miss 50% of the jobs that people are employed, between technicians, sales teams, event concierge, accounting, maintenance, building facilities. Like, all of those are not seen by just walking into an amusement park or a family entertainment center or bowling alley even.
Exactly. And those out of sight, out of mind. So if you have an elected representative who is, say, going to your facility as a guest, they're not seeking out, well, how does this all come together? They're just there to have fun and be in that environment where they're kind of escaping reality for a little bit, which we want. That's the goal. That's the end goal for our guests. But we have to show them what it takes to put on that reality and to make that look so seamless that they have a great experience. And that takes having these kinds of visits to make that happen.
So a site visit is just to invite them in and to see more than what they would see as a guest. And so, do you prefer that these be one-to-one, or have a group of officials and do almost like a tour day? I know in construction, sometimes we do hard hat days where we bring people in and show things.
It depends on what your goal is. If it's just meeting your local representatives, maybe you can, if you're a, two house system, say, in your state, you might get your, a representative or a senator, whatever those the terms are for your for who's representing you, and maybe get like the two of them together, because they probably work together a lot. They're covering the same constituencies. Or it can be a one-on-one. If you go, if you're inviting, say, a federal representative, you're most likely going to get their staff because they're local. Unless you're doing something big, you're probably not going to get the elected person to come and visit, but they have staff locally. And maybe that's the opportunity to invite a few people, because, they can coordinate maybe in their offices that, you say, okay, this is time for the two senators and my federal representative, their offices can come have a day so they can understand what goes on, because they're also educating their federal, their boss, the person that we've elected to represent us, to understand what's going on, because that one person can't have all of that knowledge, as much as they do. They have these aides and analysts and other people on staff that help them understand what's going on. So it's just as important to have those people at the table as it is the representatives.
Got it. All right. So far I need to know my representatives, and I've decided I want a site visit. But site visit could probably be chaotic if I don't know the main reason why I'm hosting this. So what are some of the main reasons why I would host a site visit?
So a first one might be there's a piece of legislation that's coming through that's going to have a dramatic effect on your business. One of them might be maybe a scheduling, predictive scheduling. Maybe it's a minimum wage increase. Maybe it's just a regulatory, issue that's come up. So you'd want to schedule a site visit to say, hey, so you understand what this is going to do. You want to show them how it's operating now, how efficient it is now, why it's working the way it is, and then how this could have a positive or negative effect on the business. But it's also good just to start having those relationships to say, this is how my business operates. This is how the industry operates. So that when something happens or when something comes up, they'll be more apt to think, well, gosh, this sounds like something that could affect, my local park or my local FEC. I wonder how that's going to happen. And maybe they reach out to you at that point. And so you've developed this relationship by having a site visit, by explaining to them what's going on and saying, okay, I got to call this person or I got to reach out to this person to say, before I go vote this way, is this going to be good or bad? Because ultimately, these representatives want to do good by everybody. They're trying to do the best they can for everybody, but they need to understand the cause and effect of what they're putting out there.
Okay. So those are the main reasons. So I guess, how do you decide the main message of a site visit? I guess it is based off what's going on currently.
Yeah,
how do you like escort that through the visit? Like, what are the steps of the visit as they come in?
So the steps of the visit as they come in, obviously you need to work with the scheduler. You need to get that, you need to work through how that's going to happen, identify the date that you want to do this, and then bring your team into it. This is not something that you do in a vacuum, because you want to make sure that everybody is, at their best that day, and that you're really trying to do this, not to sort of say, hey, look at us, but you're also saying, look at this industry as a whole. So you want to make sure that you're walking them through the entire thing. You want to bring them backstage. You want to bring them into your maintenance areas so they understand, like, there are people that are here that you never are going to see if you're a guest, hopefully, because they're, everything's running seamlessly. You might have sales staff that don't, that are in offices out back that you're never going to see. So always having those people there and saying, this is how the whole thing works. And then at the end saying, and, we brought you here because we just want you to know what we're doing here, how, the regulations that are in our state or in our region are affecting the business positively or negatively. And, if there's ever anything that comes up, think of us, think of our business, think of all the businesses like mine that will be affected by whatever votes are going on in, the state, whether it's city council, state house, federal, in Washington, just so that there's an understanding there of the ramifications of a vote, either, for or against something.
Awesome. So everyone looking at your 2023, like, when can you put a site visit on, get to know your representatives and all of that? And on top of that, Ed, how does NEAAPA support its members and getting more involved with the legislation that is around our industry?
So for NEAAPA, one of our pillars, I think you can see from my logo here, if I can do this, I'm not a meteorologist, so I'm not good with a green screen, but you'll see under our acronym, Advocacy, Information, and Networking. Advocacy is important because that's what we're talking about here.
Yes.
And so it's one of our main pillars. So we support our members by providing them with legislative updates in real time through a service that we have called Legiscan. It actually monitors all 7 state legislatures for the states that we cover in real time of legislation that's going to affect the industry. And we have the reports out there. We see when votes happen, when committees happen, when someone becomes a sponsor of this legislation, and we pump that out to our members on a regular basis. Of course, that's been a little quiet now as we go through the election season. Yes. We're in lame duck. Starting January 1st, this is going to be going, really quickly in 7 different states, and keeping that information out there, but also, keeping our ear to the ground is something else coming up that we may have missed, and working with our members in that way. And then if they find something that is, possibly that's going to be a problem for the industry, as an association, we mobilize, whether it's, do we have to hire a lobbyist? We have a lobbying fund for that. How do we work with this? And, that's when we go back to knowing our elected representatives to say, hey, this is coming up and we're seeing that this is going to be a big problem. One example I can give you that was recent was in New York State. There was a bill that was presented about not discriminating against a person based on their height or weight, which, seems to be very reasonable. But in the language of the bill, it said that that could not be done on amusement devices, which of course would throw out any height or weight requirements that a manufacturer has set for the safety of the guests who are being on the ride. So having these relationships, we were able to reach out to representatives that our members know and say, hey, this is a problem. We've got to say, unless, this is in statute someplace else, you can go ahead with this bill. We just need to make sure that amusements aren't going to be affected by this, because that's going to throw a huge monkey wrench into everything. And once the bill writers understood that, they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, how else
But
would
again,
you determine if someone is safe to ride the ride?
correct. And, was it intentional that they were doing it? No. But this is why having those relationships are important, because you're able to then, contact someone. Maybe it wasn't, in our case, it wasn't the representative who wrote the bill, but we were able to contact someone that we knew who knew the person who wrote the bill to say, okay, can we meet with this person and just quickly explain the situation? They were like, once they understood, they were like, oh yeah, we could fix that. Just takes another sentence to say, something along the lines of, unless it's part of a
Manufacturer safety.
regulations. Yeah. So, okay, that's fine. And so that sort of went away. That bill was able to carry on, but we were able to make sure that it was, handled in the right way and not something that was going to throw the industry into upheaval.
I have to say, what a service, because we all know that when you own or operate any type of entertainment facility, amusement facility, it's really easy just to get bogged down by the day-to-day of it, because it's so great and it changes all the time and it's challenging and all of that. So it's great that there's a service like NEAAPA, like that Legiscan, I think is what you called it, that
Yes,
tells me, hey, you just need to get to know your representatives, but then we'll alert you also if there's something you really need to get involved in. And I'm assuming you almost like lay it out to them to where they understand it and what type of language they need to use when they're contacting their representatives too.
absolutely. Because, when if you're looking at a bill, if you've ever looked at a bill that comes through, it can be extremely dry. They're using, they're using the language that it needs to be for for whatever the legal part of it all is, the legalities. Thank you. So yeah, we take that and we break it down into, layman's terms and say, okay, so what they're saying here is this, and this is going to be a problem, and this is how it would be a problem. And then, providing the resource to our members to say, okay, now reach out to your representative. Maybe it's a form letter that, you give them, and then they can edit it as they need to and push it out to their members. And of course, we work with IAAPA on a lot of this stuff as well, and they have all kinds of really cool technology that can really micro target. So we work with them on those things as well. But looking at it at the state level, where we can try and get that drilled down to our members and drill down in a way that it is able for them to understand what the ask is, and then be able to ask their representatives in the what we're looking for.
Awesome. And if you don't mind, will you highlight which 7 states you really pay attention to so everyone is informed on that?
Sure. So for NEAAPA, we cover Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, Rhode Island, and Vermont.
Okay. Thank you. So if you own a park in any of those and are not a member, go check out NEAAPA. And where can they find this guide?
So they can find this guide. That's actually in our members section, but for this video, Candy's going to put the link up there so you can see what it is that our members are accessing, and you can see some of the resources that NEAAPA provides our members, and that might, maybe sway you to join NEAAPA, which you can easily do at NEAAPA.com. We've got our application right there, and it's very affordable dues rates, and given that we're in December right now, our dues calendar starts in July. So rather than giving you like a half price, saying, okay, well, if it's this, it's going to be half that. I'm going to give your viewers a deal. If they go now this is coming out on what day, Candy?
This will come out on December 22nd.
Okay, awesome. So if they register to be an NEAAPA member by January 31st, I will give them, if they have to pay for their dues for the full year, but then they won't get billed again for dues until July of 2024. So they'll get like half a year for free.
I'll get a year and a half of membership.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. And so since we're on that, I just want to highlight some of the other things that benefits of being a member of NEAAPA. I'm sure you have committees and different things. Like, what are the other ways that you can get involved if someone becomes a member of NEAAPA?
So if you want to get involved with NEAAPA, we have so many different committees that are working for the betterment of the industry. So it could be our safety committee, it could be our, obviously our legislative and advocacy committee, which we've been, is very active with creating this elected officials guide. And we've got an education committee. We're actually getting ready to launch our brand new NEAAPA Academy, which is online learning that's available for free for our members. So we're adding that in there. There's a bunch of different things that you can do. And of course, we also put together different events throughout the year. We have about half a dozen events that we do. Some are big, like our education conference, our summer meeting. We do stuff at IAAPA. We do member meetups throughout the region that are smaller events. So we're always doing things to sort of bring our members together so that we can foster this environment of, that we're, you can feel like you can pick up the phone and call, maybe your nearest competitor and say, hey, I've got this issue. Have you run into this issue before? And have that sort of camaraderie that we're all working together for the same goal.
Awesome. Thank you for that synopsis. That's awesome. Now, Ed, everyone who comes on Think Tank has a signature question that they have to answer. All guests can ask the same question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What do you do on a consistent basis to help yourself and others grow?
What I do is I try and stay informed. So I'm very much like reading the news a lot, just trying to keep up with, and it doesn't have to be like current event stuff. It could be, articles that are written about things that are happening halfway around the world, but just always trying to learn something new. I love watching Jeopardy. So I'm always learning different things from there. So that, helps me grow. Subscribing to, I'm very big into, for when I'm not doing the NEAAPA stuff, I have my own marketing company. So I'm always trying to learn like what's new with Facebook, what new is coming out with that, because that's always changing.
It's always changing.
And trying to keep up with that. So I'm always trying to get little nuggets of things that I can then pass off to either my clients or other NEAAPA members, or, just in general that I can, be of service and of help to people around me.
Awesome. Trainertainment, one of our core values is being an intentional learner. So I think you get a check mark for our core values there.
Awesome. Yeah, I think intentional learning is important. Just to say, we're always growing as people. And if we just sort of stop learning, we just stop, it sort of really stifles us as people, as humans and as people. So it's important to just always keep that thinking cap on and be willing and open to learn about new things.
I personally think that when we cease to believe in that there's still wonder in the world, then that's when we really start to get kind of old. And so as long as we're always learning, we always learn of all the different wonders there are out there, which keeps us young, even if it's just at heart.
That's right. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for your time today. Where can people find you if they want to learn more, connect with you, or have questions about membership?
So if they want to learn more about NEAAPA, you can reach out to me through the NEAAPA website, NEAAPA.com. That's NEAAPA.com. You can learn more about membership. Reach out to me through there. We have email, phone, anything you need to reach out to me is right there.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for your time, and I hope you have happy holidays.
Thank you, Candy, and thank you for everyone at Trainertainment and the sponsors of Think Tank for having me on today.
Thank you to all of you for choosing to spend this time with us. And of course, thank you again to our 2022 digital sponsors. As a note, For anyone who's watching this, we are currently taking sponsorship applications for our 2023 think tanks and our 2023 webinars. So if you're interested, please contact us. Sonia Terry is heading up that, and you can contact her at sonia@trainertainment.net. We'll love to talk to you about the options that we have to sponsor Think Tank or our webinars. Also, if you have an idea for Think Tank or you'd like to be a guest, please email me, Candy@trainertainment.net. And then I hope each and every one of you have happy holidays and love this time with the ones that you love. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, my name is Brittany Betty, and I am the Regional Sales Director and Business Development Manager over at Betson Enterprises. Here at Betson, we are so excited to be a part of Trainertainment this year. For those of you who are unaware of Betson and what we do, we are the leading distributor of coin-operated equipment, and we are a family-owned business that has been around for 85 plus years. Please take a moment to watch a quick video on an introduction on the phased approach and turnkey solution we can offer you in your facility. Thank you so much for taking the time for watching. And if you have any questions and would like to reach out to me, I can be reached at my email at bbetty, BBETTI, @Betson, BETSON.com. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or needs you might have in the family entertainment industry, and I would be happy to assist you. Thank you and have a great day.
Are you looking for ways to maximize profits and consolidate systems and processes? Join the Party Center Software and Party Center Pay family. Our suite of solutions makes it easy for you to run your family entertainment center or event business. Our online party booking system makes booking parties and events a breeze. Our point of sale system, digital waivers, and reports will help you simplify steps for your staff and make your guest experience seamless. Our online store allows you to sell products, gift certificates, and other services anytime, even when you're sleeping. But it doesn't end there. All of the solutions mentioned connect with our payment processing platform, Party Center Pay, making it easier than ever to manage your business. Not only can Party Center Pay save you money by cutting out extraneous fees, but Party Center Pay makes it easy to take online deposits or full payments, and we even have a contactless payment option. Paired with our incredible support team and dedicated customer success managers, growing and managing your business has never been easier. Schedule a call with us today to learn more.
My wife and I, this is a partnership with her and I, so we both agreed that, in creating Scary Strokes, that we want to make sure that we have the best available of everything. Embed just seemed like the perfect fit. Like, it was pretty streamlined and had the point of sales and the software for the redemption, and it just seemed, natural to us. So we've been with Embed since the very beginning. And so when Embed, it was introducing the mobile wallet, it seemed like a good opportunity for us to jump on, and it's wonderful. I mean, you reload your card from it, you redeem your tickets from it. There's nothing not to like about it. I mean, it's very convenient. It's very clever for sure.
Empowering your employees to manage your redemption area with confidence can be a challenge. The redemption counter is often the last stop your customers make before leaving your facility. That's why we do everything we can to help your staff make that experience one worth returning for. Our service packages allow you to reap the benefits of expertise and customer support, no matter where your business is in its maturity. The Advanced and Pro Service Bundles are unmatched by any other redemption provider in the industry. They allow you to get the support you need when you need it. Gain confidence in your redemption program, knowing your employees are taking advantage of benefits like exclusive redemption training, regular planogram refreshes, product performance and spending reports, and much more. All accessible from an online portal customized to your business. Learn more at services.redemptionplus.com.